So I've been getting a lot of comments and DMs regarding my experience as a POC, but more specifically a Black student at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. So I decided to just make a video on it. That way it's like address everything. And if you guys still have like more questions, you guys can leave it in the comments down below. I do want to preface this video by saying that what I'm about to tell you guys has happened over the course of 2 years, but since I'm telling you this in a short video, it may seem worse than it actually is. However, I don't want to take away the importance and actual seriousness of these experiences that I've experienced. So just to give you guys perspective, Cal Poly has about 22,000 students, and of those 22,000 students, 1 to 2% identify as Black or African American. Now, if you're not good at math like myself, that means that there is about 200 to 300 Black students, and of that body, majority, not all, but majority of them are athletes. I think this context is important because usually when people hear PWI, they think like, oh, like it's just majority white students and there's a few other minorities here, which to an extent that is true. There is about 5,000 Hispanic students. I want to say 2,000 Asian identifying students, and then I don't remember the other numbers, but those are like the main three that come up to the top of my head. Unfortunately, I did have a racist experience here with a faculty member in my college. And whenever I refer to my college, I'm talking about the College of Architecture and Environmental Design here. Long story short, my professor did allude to me being illiterate and undeserving of my place here at Cal Poly. And without context, I know it's like, well, how does that make him racist? With me being the only Black student in his class and him already have making questionable comments throughout the quarter. Once I found out that he treated the white students better and was like more accommodating to them, and whenever they were like struggling and they went to them, they always seemed to have an answer. But whenever I did, it was like, and this is me quoting him, "I can't help you. I don't know what you want me to tell you." You know, it kind of felt like, okay, like started to get like a sense of who he actually was. And yeah, I did go through the process of filing a bias incident report against him, and I do truly feel like the university was helpful and everyone involved in that team really cared about what I said and made sure that I was comfortable and that I had protection over everything and that I wasn't going to be retaliated against. However, even with all of those safety precautions and the accommodating team, I just wonder how many other students have went through that experience with him or just other faculty and haven't speak up because of how intimidating that whole process can be. Now, fortunately, that was like my only racist experience here. However, there are like daily microaggressions that I experience and like other students I know have experienced, but I'm just going to be speaking for myself and my own personal experiences. The biggest thing that I personally experience is a difference in how I'm treated compared to like my classmates treat each other, if that makes sense. I understand that not everyone wants to sit towards the front of the class, so I give them that. But it gets to a point where like in all of my classes, there's like 2 to 3 seats empty on both sides of me, and like everyone else is like huddled up together sitting next to each other. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't say that's necessarily a microaggression. However, it does feel like a bit isolating in the sense that like it seems like everyone else is more willing to like be friends and be cordial and cool with people, but when it comes to me, sometimes it can feel like no one wants to take that extra step. Like, I don't know. I've also had a few group projects here where the white individual in our group treated the minorities different. And by different, I mean like was way more short-tempered, would make it seem like we're supposed to know the material that we're all working towards together. Even just saying like rude jokes, whereas like, but when they talk to other white members in our group or even in the class, it seemed like they were just like buddy-buddy, if that makes sense. I think also with the rise of social media and the use of AAVE, that has become synonymous with TikTok language, which are not the same thing. And what I mean by that is I've heard people say like YN, use the ninja emoji in substitute of the N-word, or just other stuff in that category, which isn't like necessarily racist, but it's like you're shortening a word that you're not even supposed to be saying. Me also being openly gay, I feel like the intersectionality of me being Black and gay sometimes is like a double whammy. If I'm not isolated for my race, then I'm isolated for my sexuality, and it's just like a constant back and forth cycle. Those are like all the experiences that I've experienced here at Cal Poly, and I do want to say that I do believe that Cal Poly is growing and working towards becoming more accommodating and inclusive to minority groups, whether it be Black, Hispanic, whatever. Fortunately, I had the privilege of being an orientation leader for class of 29, in which I did 2 orientation programs, and I saw way more minorities in those groups than when I went through it the year prior as a freshman. But I also want to say that just because Cal Poly is growing and working towards becoming more inclusive doesn't mean that these experiences don't happen and that they probably will happen again in the future, unfortunately. Overall, I just think it's really important to show up in spaces like these, be the change that you want to see. I would hate for someone not to come to Cal Poly because of like things they've heard or like things they're scared of and haven't got like their questions answered. Like, this is an amazing university. The education is top tier and we need more of you guys here. So I hope this helps. If I still have questions, leave them in the comments. I'll try to reply to everything I can. It is only just me, but yeah.